Hello again, internet friends, and welcome back to the Reno City Council on Public Access Television 3. This week I want to talk to you guys about social media fitness, and it's going to kind of be in the same vein of what we talked about last week with diet and nutrition and some of the problems that we see with diet and nutrition science being pushed online. But this week I want to talk a little bit more about training and some of the false dichotomy that you see between different training strategies, exercise selection, stuff like that. And the reason that I wanted to have this conversation was there's a Instagram page that I recently started following, and it's a coach who I think 99% of his stuff is really great. I think it's a good page with good information, but he's been putting out basically memes that are trolling the knees over toes guy. If you're not familiar with the knees over toes guy, you can go follow his page and see the stuff he's got. I like his content and I like a lot of the training stuff that he suggests, but as you can guess by his name, he's got a pretty heavy emphasis on making the knees strong, making the knees healthy. I think he played like college basketball and had to stop because he had knee pain, so now that's kind of his focus, that's kind of his thing. And so he's commercialized very well a couple of different movements that aren't necessarily original to him, but he's done a very good job at taking those movements and explaining how to do them in a way that helps you to get rid of your knee pain, make your knees strong, and prevent knee pain in the future. And so he's gained a lot of popularity by kind of commercializing and pushing a specific set of movements and a certain type of method to help address people with knee problems. And so for whatever reason, this coach that I'm referring to does not like or disagrees with some of the stuff that Knees Over Toes guy is putting out. And so he makes these kind of meme videos mocking and ridiculing him. And so the reason I wanted to talk to you guys about this is because if you're a beginner online trying to figure out what's what, seeing this type of dynamic can make it really difficult to decide what's true and what's useful and what you should apply to your training, because you don't have two people having a calm and nuanced conversation. You basically have people just mockingly talking past each other, not even past each other, just talking about each other, but in different directions. They are not really having anything close to a conversation. And you as an athlete are basically forced into this situation where you feel like you have to pick one side or the other because both quote-unquote experts are telling you how wrong the other one is, so they can't both be right. And so you feel like you have to side with one guy or the other and choose one guy's method over the other. And I want to tell you that that's usually not the case. I would say the majority of the time, both coaches are kind of correct and both coaches are kind of wrong. And how much they're wrong and why they're wrong and why they're right and how much they're right is going to change depending upon the circumstance. But you have to remember that social media incentivizes conflict. If you can go and pick a fight with another coach, and the more drama you can generate, the more views and attention you're going to get, and that's going to increase your potential to make money. I've even felt the pull of this where if I put something in a post that is antagonistic either politically or towards another coach or anything like that, it gets more likes and it gets more views than me just typing out information that I think is going to be useful to people. And I've had to fight that temptation to call out certain people or make a meme mocking somebody or something like that. And so you have to remember that that incentive is there, and it affects everybody because everybody wants to be successful and make money. But I've had the experience multiple times of watching fitness influencers and coaches who argue pretty bitterly online, and they'll comment rude things and that type of stuff. When they get together and sit down on a podcast and there's a person mediating the conversation and reminding them to be polite, and they're kind of forced into that social situation where they're face to face and they can't just sling insults at each other anymore, you see a much more nuanced conversation. So that somebody that's saying, hey, these are the 3 things to get rid of your knee pain, they will very often say something much more nuanced like, well, obviously these aren't perfect tools for everybody to get rid of knee pain. I just think they're kind of good solutions, and so I want to advertise them. And the person who is criticizing that coach will also say something much more nuanced. Instead of insulting them and saying how ridiculous all their methods are, they will talk about, well, I think there's some limitations to your approaches. These aren't the tools that I would prefer, but I could see how sometimes those things would work. And you get to see that these coaches actually agree a lot more than they disagree. But because they're on a social media platform and they have all these incentivizations to argue, and they're trying to fight for an ever-shortening attention span of their clientele, and they're trying to stand out among thousands of other fitness professionals, they end up doing what you see a lot of the time on the internet, which is just insulting each other, trading memes, showing how ridiculous the other person is, and that sort of thing. So if you find yourself in this situation where you're trying to decide which fitness professional to trust, try to listen to them on a podcast where you have to hear them explain themselves for an hour instead of just making a 30-second clip. And it's especially useful if you get an opportunity to watch these coaches have long-form discussions with people that they disagree with. You get to see, is this person polite to this person they disagree with? Are they condescending? Are they able to kind of have a discussion and bring up good points when somebody questions what they're doing? Or do they kind of fall apart and revert to insults when they're pressed on their methods? And that sort of thing can give you a lot better idea of what you're getting into when you're following somebody, and that can maybe help you sift through some of the information that they're handing out. But ultimately, you have to kind of take what you think makes sense from both coaches and maybe take a little from both and give it a try. At the end of the day, it's kind of become a cliche to say do your own research, but that's what you need to do. And I don't mean research in the sense that you should go look up if there's PubMed studies on it. I mean actually go to the gym and see if these things work. You know, if some guy tells you you can get rid of knee pain by walking backwards on a treadmill, well, try it for 2 or 3 times a week for a couple of weeks and see if it does anything for you. And then if that doesn't work, then try the other guy's method, and then you can know for yourself. That's the nice thing about training, is it's a very tangible pursuit. And we very often, if we're not sure about something, we can just try it in the gym and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then we need to move on. But at the end of the day, I would remind you of the advice that I gave in the last video, which is to take a step back from social media and just try and use your common sense. But first, you have to get your head out of the drama. Don't worry so much about what one coach is saying about the other. Just take a little bit of both and what you think makes sense, and then give it a try. And give yourself the opportunity to experiment free of the burden of having to worry about what's going on social media. And I think if you guys can do that, it'll help your decision making quite a bit. Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and I will talk to you in the next video.